What if reality, as solid and objective as it feels, only exists because someone is here to look at it? What if the stars above, the ground beneath your feet, the air you breathe, and even the thoughts you think, all depend on something deeper than matter or energy? Something as simple and as mysterious as awareness itself. In the quiet darkness of the universe, before life, before thought, before anyone to notice, could there have been such a thing as existence? Or does existence itself awaken only when it's seen? In quantum physics, the question isn't just philosophical, it's experimental. A single electron behaves like a wave of infinite possibilities until someone observes it. The moment it's measured, the wave collapses, and the electron chooses a definite position. Observation changes the outcome. It's as if the universe waits for a witness before deciding what to become. This is the heart of the quantum enigma, that reality, at its most fundamental level, may not exist independently of consciousness. Without an observer, there is only potential, a silent ocean of probabilities waiting to crystallize into form. Imagine a tree falling in a forest on an uninhabited planet. If no one is there to hear it, does it make a sound? Physics says maybe it doesn't, because sound is not a property of the tree nor of the air. It's a property of perception. It's vibration interpreted by a mind. Without ears to hear or a brain to process, there is no sound, only movement in air. In the same way, without consciousness to observe, there might be no reality, only quantum motion, shapeless and undefined. The physicist Eugene Wigner once said that it was not possible to formulate the laws of quantum mechanics in a fully consistent way without reference to consciousness. To him, the observer was not just a bystander, but an active participant in the creation of what we call real. If the observer is removed, the entire structure collapses into uncertainty. But what is this observer? Is it human consciousness? Or something more fundamental? A universal awareness that permeates everything? Let's travel back to the moment before time began, before space unfolded, before energy danced, before the first atom formed. There was no observer. There was only nothingness, or perhaps a silent potential. Then something happened. The universe blinked into existence, expanding from a point smaller than an atom into everything we see today. But what caused it? Why did it happen at all? Some physicists suggest that the universe might have created itself through a quantum fluctuation, a brief imbalance in nothingness. Yet even that concept implies a kind of self-awareness, as though the universe looked inward and decided to exist. Could observation, in some cosmic sense, have existed before observers, as a fundamental property of the universe itself? John Wheeler, one of the great minds of modern physics, once proposed a startling idea called the participatory universe. He suggested that the universe doesn't exist independently of those who observe it. Rather, every act of observation across time, from ancient stargazers to future explorers, collectively brings reality into being. It's as if we are all participants in a cosmic experiment, shaping existence by the mere act of perceiving it. In Wheeler's words, no phenomenon is a real phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon. This doesn't mean that the moon disappears when you're not looking at it. It means that what we call the moon, its position, its light, its very definition, is part of a shared agreement between consciousness and the fabric of space. When you look at it, you collapse probabilities into a singular vision. When no one looks, those probabilities continue to float, not unreal, but unmanifested. Reality, then, might be a grand conversation between mind and matter, between the dreamer and the dream. In a quantum sense, your observation doesn't just witness the universe, it defines it. Every photon of light that enters your eye completes a transaction with your awareness. Until that moment, the photon existed only as a possibility, a wave of potential. Once it interacts with your perception, it becomes something measurable, something real. You don't just look at the world, you help it exist, and yet this idea is unsettling. It suggests that the universe might be less like a machine and more like a thought. A cosmic field of awareness in which matter and energy are merely ripples, temporary patterns that arise when consciousness focuses on them. It implies that the boundary between out there and in here doesn't really exist. You are not observing reality from the outside. You are reality, observing itself from within. Maybe that's why ancient philosophies and modern physics, though born from different worlds, sometimes meet in the same silence. The Upanishads whispered, "The self is the universe." Quantum mechanics whispers the same, but in equations. Both tell us that the observer and the observed are one, and that separation is only an illusion of perspective. So, can reality exist without observers? Maybe the better question is, can observers exist without reality? Perhaps the two are so deeply intertwined that one cannot be without the other, like light and shadow or dream and dreamer. The universe breathes through observation. Its lungs are awareness, its pulse the act of being seen. If the universe depends on observation, then what happens when there are no eyes left to see? When the last star burns out and the last mind fades into silence, does reality dissolve into nothing, or does it continue somewhere beyond perception? A ghost of probability, dreaming itself in the dark? Imagine the end of time when entropy has stretched every atom into emptiness. There is no sound, no light, no consciousness. Space is a quiet sea of dying particles. Does that empty void still exist in any meaningful way, or is it only a concept waiting for someone to remember it? Some physicists say yes, the universe continues, cold and indifferent. But others whisper a different truth, that existence requires awareness like a flame requires oxygen. Without perception, reality might not vanish, but it might fall asleep. A cosmic pause between awakenings. Just as you cease to exist in your dreams until you become aware you are dreaming, perhaps the universe itself lies dormant until observed again. Awareness, then, is the spark that keeps creation awake. Quantum experiments continue to deepen this mystery. The famous double-slit experiment shows that particles behave like waves until they are observed. The very act of measurement forces them to choose a definite path. But what counts as observation? Is it a human looking? A camera recording? Or can any interaction that stores information, even at a molecular level, be considered awareness? If the answer is yes, then the entire universe is observing itself, constantly collapsing waves of probability into form. Every atom interacting with another becomes a silent witness to existence. Reality, in that sense, never sleeps. It just shifts its gaze. In this participatory cosmos, everything becomes an observer. The planet observing its own orbit through gravitational exchange. A photon observing a molecule by striking it. A black hole observing matter by devouring it. Consciousness might not be limited to minds. It might be a property of matter itself, an intrinsic awareness embedded in every level of the universe. In this view, your brain isn't generating consciousness. It's concentrating it, focusing a universal awareness into a localized perspective. You're not creating observation. You're channeling it. And that changes everything. Because if awareness is fundamental, then existence itself is not made of matter or energy. It's made of information, of relationships between observers. Every interaction, every quantum exchange, every flicker of thought becomes a node in a vast self-aware network. The universe is not a machine running on gears of physics. It's a story being told through observation. Each observer, human, particle, planet, adds a sentence, a word, a letter. Without observation, the story halts, but the potential for it remains, waiting to be read again. Let's step back for a moment. Imagine a blank canvas in a dark room. The image on it exists only when light falls upon it. Before that, the paint, the colors, the shapes are invisible, unreal in any practical sense. Reality might work the same way. Light, awareness, reveals it. Without awareness, the universe might be nothing more than an unlit canvas, infinite and empty. Only when consciousness turns its gaze does color appear, form emerge, motion begin. Maybe the Big Bang wasn't just the birth of matter. Maybe it was the moment consciousness first opened its eyes. This brings us to a haunting paradox. If reality depends on being observed, who observed the first moment? Before life existed, before eyes could see or minds could question, what collapsed the first wave function of existence? Some say the universe observed itself. That awareness is not something added later by evolution, but something that has always been there, like a background hum, invisible yet essential. The cosmos may have been conscious before it was physical, dreaming itself into being. It's strange how this idea mirrors ancient myths. In nearly every culture, creation begins when something becomes aware. The first god awakens and speaks light into darkness. The cosmic egg cracks when consciousness stirs. Science, in its cold precision, seems to circle back to the same revelation. That awareness and existence are not two things, but one and the same. An endless dance between the dreamer and the dream. So, what happens when there are no observers? Perhaps the question itself is flawed. Because even in a universe devoid of life, the laws of physics still observe one another. Energy interacts with gravity. Particles exchange information. Reality, it seems, never stops observing itself. Even if every conscious being vanished, the act of existence would remain a form of observation, space-time reflecting its own being. In that sense, the universe is its own observer, eternally aware of itself in ways we can't yet comprehend. But still, there's a deeper layer, a silence beneath all this self-observation. The physicist might describe it as a quantum field. The mystic might call it pure awareness. It is neither subject nor object, but the space in which both arise. It is the awareness that allows observation to happen at all. And maybe, just maybe, this awareness has no beginning or end. It doesn't die when stars die, and it doesn't begin when you open your eyes. It simply is, the eternal witness behind all existence. When you close your eyes tonight, try to imagine that vast stillness, the quiet hum beneath reality, the awareness that holds galaxies and thoughts alike. You are part of that awareness, a fleeting ripple in its infinite calm. And though your life, like every wave, will eventually fade, the ocean remains. In that endless awareness, the universe watches itself forever. Not through eyes, not through instruments, but through being itself. So maybe the question isn't, can reality exist without observers? Maybe the truth is simpler and more profound. Observation and reality are the same thing. The act of being aware is existence. The dream and the dreamer are one, and in that unity, the universe never stops existing, because it never stops knowing itself. The physicist leans back in his chair, the faint hum of the night wrapping around him like a cosmic echo. His pen rests against a notebook filled with questions that don't want to be answered. They want to be felt. The candle beside him trembles, its flame dancing in slow, deliberate motions, as if the air itself is thinking. Outside, the stars shimmer against the ink of the sky, ancient and indifferent, yet somehow aware. He wonders if they're watching him too, not through light, but through the strange reciprocity of existence, where every atom knows it is being known. He recalls something from an old lecture, that every observation, no matter how small, changes what is observed, a truth both poetic and terrifying, because it means nothing is untouched by awareness. To observe is to interfere. To know something is to change it. Every time we look at the world subtly rearranges itself to meet our gaze. Maybe that's why reality feels so personal. Maybe it bends not just around gravity, but around consciousness itself. The physicist closes his eyes and imagines the universe before consciousness, a raw sea of quantum probabilities. No sound, no shape, no certainty, just infinite potential vibrating in silence. Then, like a match struck in the dark, awareness appears. Suddenly there is structure, form, meaning. Perhaps that's what consciousness truly is. Not a byproduct of the brain, but the cosmic force that freezes potential into being. A light that makes the darkness visible. He opens his eyes again. The room hasn't changed, yet it feels alive now. The desk, the scattered papers, the glass of water reflecting candlelight. Everything seems to shimmer with a subtle intelligence. Maybe that's what we miss when we separate the observer from the observed. There is no separation. The act of seeing binds us to what we see. Every photon that enters the eye becomes part of us, and we, in turn, become part of it. In that merging, observer and reality dissolve into one continuous act of awareness. He begins to write slowly. Perhaps the universe is not outside of us, but within us, a projection of consciousness unfolding itself into patterns we call reality. The thought feels too large for words, but he writes it anyway, knowing that even incomplete truths have power. Because deep down, he suspects that the line between mind and cosmos is an illusion maintained only by perception. The brain and the universe are reflections of the same pattern, neural pathways mirroring galactic filaments, electrical impulses echoing cosmic radiation. The more he studies physics, the more it feels like he's studying thought itself. He once believed that consciousness was small, a flicker produced by biological matter. But now he's not so sure. What if it's the other way around? What if matter is what consciousness looks like when it observes itself from within? The stars, the atoms, the bodies, the dreams, all different expressions of the same underlying awareness. In that case, reality doesn't need observers. Reality is observation, endlessly folding and unfolding, watching itself from infinite angles. The physicist glances at the clock. Time feels slower, as if the very air has thickened around the thought. He remembers Einstein's words, "Time is an illusion." But what if the deeper illusion is separation, the idea that time, space, and awareness are distinct things? Maybe they're all made of the same substance, the same fabric of perception stretched thin across dimensions. Without awareness, there would be no time to pass, no space to move through, no reality to experience. Everything that exists might only exist because it can be known. He looks at the candle again. Its flame flickers, fragile, luminous, alive. He realizes that light itself is the perfect metaphor for awareness. It reveals, it defines, it animates, yet it has no shape of its own. You can't hold it, but without it, nothing can be seen. Awareness, like light, is everywhere and nowhere, both the painter and the canvas. Maybe the reason the universe seems so vast is because it's the only way awareness can see itself, by scattering its own reflection across infinity. He wonders what this means for life, for death, for meaning itself. If reality and observation are inseparable, then even after death, awareness cannot truly end. The observer dissolves, but the act of observing, the field of awareness, remains. It's the sea from which all waves rise and to which all return. When the body ceases, the awareness that animated it doesn't vanish. It simply stops identifying as you. It continues as the universe itself, observing, dreaming, becoming. The physicist smiles faintly. Death, then, is not an absence of observation, but a merging back into the infinite observer. Outside, a quiet wind moves through the night, carrying whispers of forgotten stars. The physicist closes his notebook, his mind still buzzing with the hum of realization. Maybe the great mystery of existence isn't hidden in equations or telescopes. Maybe it's hidden in the simple act of awareness itself. The unprovable, undeniable truth that something is watching, even when no one else is around. He leans back and lets the silence fill the room. The candle burns lower, casting shadows that seem to move with intention. The air feels thick with presence, not of ghosts, but of existence itself. In that moment, he feels a strange peace. Because if observation and reality are one, then nothing is ever truly lost. Every star that dies, every thought that fades, every moment that slips into memory, all remain within the fabric of awareness. The universe keeps its own archive, written not in time, but in perception. As he drifts toward sleep, he imagines the cosmos as a living thought, vast, self-aware, endlessly curious. Every black hole a question, every star an answer. Maybe the universe isn't a machine or a mind, but something in between, a conscious process, forever discovering itself through the eyes of its creations. And maybe, somewhere in that infinite recursion, it wonders the same question he does. Can reality exist without observers? He exhales softly, the last of the candlelight trembling in the glass. The flame flickers once, twice, and then goes out. The room falls into darkness, yet he knows the darkness is not empty. Somewhere, unseen, the universe is still observing itself through silence. Reality, after all, never disappears. It only closes its eyes.